What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Miles Drives. My name's Mickey. In this episode, I want to tell you about the time I totaled my dream car taking my manager out on a first date. That's right, guys. When I was 18 years old, I used to be a disaster at driving. I'm talking about I got in 7 accidents. By the time I was 18 years old, I was stopped by multiple cop cars on multiple occasions. I had the ultimate need for speed, and perhaps I inherited that from being addicted to Need for Speed Most Wanted. At that time, I used to work at the movie theater at the South Point in Las Vegas, and that movie theater was popping. You know, I had this manager. She was a little bit older. She might have been 21, 22, and I was 18. But every day I'd check her out. Specifically because she used to be the one that used to count my money when I'd get off shift, because I used to work register at the front of the movie theater and at the concession stand. So every time we'd be alone and she'd be counting my money, there'd be these awkward exchanges. You know, the type of exchanges that happen when there's a sexual attraction type of chemistry between two individuals. So one day, being the guy that I was, and I asked her on a date, I'm like, hey, you know, we got a little thing going on. I think you're cute. Why don't we go on a date? And she accepts. Dude, I was so happy. I was like, how dope would it be if I got with the manager? Anyways, I thought that was gonna become a reality. And that day, right, I remember the day of the date. I remember getting ready. I wore this white Affliction shirt that had these blue skulls painted across the front of it. I wore these True Religion jeans that had this thick white stitching and what looked like, at the time, a boot cut. Guys, I was an 18-year-old kid wearing a boot cut True Religion jean. Anyways, I remember leaving my home. Now, to give you guys some context, I used to have a 2006 Jetta GLI, which at the time was my absolute dream car. I remember when that car came out, it was one of the very first cars that had a dual clutch transmissions. It was mated to a 2.0 liter, a 4-cylinder turbo. And the car actually had some low-end grunt. But I had this beautiful car. It was gray. It had the spider wheels from the GLI at the time. It had the xenon headlights. I'm talking about, it was the ideal spec for the ideal 18-year-old. Anyways, I jump in the car. I turn the car on and I go meet with this girl. I remember arriving at her house as if it were yesterday. She lived there with her mom. Her mom was an only parent at the time, and I remember knocking at the door, and she opens the door and looks at me. Keep in mind, guys, you know, I looked a little more Mexican back then. And I had a little bit of a unibrow, a little bit of a mustache, and I didn't look like your traditional white guy. And back then, you know, this mixed cultural relationship thing wasn't as fashionable as it is now. So she looks at me, we kind of have this awkward exchange, but long story short, her daughter comes down the stairs and we go and jump in the Jetta. So here's where the story gets interesting. The moment we get in the Jetta, I'm thinking to myself, how can I increase my probability of getting lucky tonight? You know, like every guy, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get some. In my head, right? What do I have to do? How can I impress her? So down below in the Jetta, there is, right in the center console, a lot like the GT3, there is a traction control off button. So if you press it and hold it, the traction control becomes disabled, and boom, you're basically able to do these front wheel drive burnouts anywhere. So long story short, I take the traction control off, I jump in the driver's seat, and we embark on our journey. Now, here's when things take a turn for the worst. We're having a good time bullshitting back and forth, getting out of the neighborhood, and I decide, here's where I'm gonna go fast. I'm gonna drift around this corner, Dominic Toretto style. I'm talking about Fast and the Furious. I thought I was that guy. Anyways, I disable the traction control, and there's this little turn, a curve exiting her neighborhood, and surrounding the curve, lining the curve on the outside, is a brick wall, and that brick wall guides you all the way out of the neighborhood, all the way to the main road. But I remember, I'm approaching the curve and I'm thinking to myself, I got you, baby. I take the gear shift. The Jetta gear shift had a silver button here. You'd press it, you shift it into sport, right? And then you could downshift into first. So I put it into first gear. And I remember just stabbing the accelerator. This is the last thing I remember. Right before, basically, my life flashes right in between my eyes, and I hit the sidewalk right in front of me. And I hit the sidewalk so hard, guys, I swear to you, I hit it so hard that the airbags deploy around the entire car. I'm talking about steering wheel, side curtain, passenger curtain, rear curtains, the whole car. And you get this big puff of smoke, and I'm like, okay, what just happened? Basically a crash. For those of you that have ever been involved, it's a big bang followed by some pain from the airbags followed by a huge shock. So now I'm in the shock stage. I'm like, oh shit, I just crashed my car with this girl on my right hand side. So as I recover from the shock of the crash, I look over and this girl is covering her mouth and nose just like this. And I'm like, oh my God, she is in bad shape. And lo and behold, she pulls her hands down and she's bleeding from her face from the crash. There was glass from the window everywhere in the car. This girl scratched up. It's like as if she went into a brawl and was jumped by 4 or 5 other people. It was crazy. Anyways, guys, look. I called my mom, I told her I lost control of my day. You know, I would never tell the truth back then for some reason because I was a kid, an immature one at that. She calls her mom, who's down the road, comes and picks her up, gives me the death stare as she getting into the car. And honestly, I feel this feeling of impending doom. I feel like my life is over. Long story short, after that, I lost my car for about a year. It wasn't until they were able to fix it, even though the repairs were $26,000 on a $28,000 car. For some reason, the insurance chose to not total it. I think it's because at the time, they couldn't replace the car. I don't know why. It was weird to me because it took so long and the repairs are so expensive, they did not total the car. But what happened to my relationship with that girl, do you think? Do you think I ended up getting some like I wanted to? Do you think I was like, oh yeah, no. Guys, no. I ended up losing that relationship. That relationship went nowhere really fast. I think it ended up lasting a little bit longer than that day. Maybe it went on for another month or so, and then the relationship ended, and that was it. It was over, guys. And that is how I totaled my car on my first date with the manager, thinking that I was gonna get lucky. Anyways, guys, look, if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, scroll down, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next video.